Well, hello again. It is the Bipolar Hot Mess, and I am on video 5 of our DBT series. I'm using the DBT Made Simple book, and I know everyone's getting really excited because now we're getting into the introduction to mindfulness. So, before we start that, though, I just want to mention, been, sorry, like I've been mentioning in the last couple videos, that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, a therapist, psychologist. I'm not licensed in anything. I'm not practicing any type of medicine or any type of therapy when I'm doing these videos. I'm purely just giving you guys the information that I'm getting straight from this book. And this book is it's a step-by-step guide to DBT, and it's written for therapists who are basically, it's giving the therapists the information that they would need to start using DBT in their practice. And so it's just it's a very general overview of DBT and the different skills and how to implement them. There are a few sections in here that are specifically for therapists that I haven't gone over in any of these videos because I'm not a therapist, and I'm not like teaching therapists how to do it either. I'm using this book to give you guys information on DBT, since DBT isn't really that well known. I mean, you hear DBT, but you don't really know much about it, and this is actually a book a publisher sent me, so I'm doing this as part of a book review. And as part of my book review, since it's written for therapists, I'm actually working with one of my friends and using the methods that they say to teach someone with the worksheets and stuff. I'm using them with my friend, and we're going to see how simple actually this book really, really is. It says that it's DBT made simple. Well, let's see how simple it is to teach people mindfulness from it. Or DBT from it. So, do not disregard anything your doctor says. Don't go off your treatment plans. This is just purely supplemental information, and just for, if you want to talk to your doctor about it, then you can talk to your doctor about it, but don't take anything that I'm saying as medical advice. So, that said, mindfulness. First, let's start with the definition. What is mindfulness? The definition consists of several parts. It's doing one thing at a time, in the present moment, with your full attention, and with acceptance. So, in order to do mindfulness, you have to have all of those parts. So, most people, the acceptance part is the part that they leave out. Acceptance is basically not judging yourself for the experience that you're doing. Instead, if you're feeling anxious at the time, accept that you're feeling anxious. Don't get angry with yourself because you're feeling anxious or upset, or don't try to, just accept that you're anxious and notice it. And at the end, when I go over mindfulness and there's a worksheet, you would note there that you felt anxious and you noticed anxiousness, and that would be something that you would write down, and that would be something that you would work on. But instead of judging yourself for being anxious, allow yourself to be anxious and accept that you're anxious at that moment. So mindfulness is about experiencing things as they're happening without trying to change them. So, I mean, there are a few things that mindfulness can help with. Because as you experience them, and you're experiencing them without trying to change them, so you're learning to take control of your mind. And so that's one thing that mindfulness can help with. Another one is improving emotional regulation. Since you're experiencing things at that moment, you're kind of regulating your emotions a little bit more. And then increasing behavioral control, because you're experiencing things at that moment. You're not doing a lot of things impulsively or acting on things from the past or things in the future. So let's go over those three things a little bit, and let's see where that takes us. So the first one, taking control of your mind. The goal here is you're supposed to be able to identify the emotions that you experience. I apparently live right by the railroad tracks, so sorry about the really loud train. But I've lived here my entire life, so when a train goes by, I just naturally raise my voice. So sorry about that. But to actually try and do one of these videos without a train going by is impossible. So hopefully you can hear me. But okay, back to it. Taking control of your mind. The goal is to be able to identify the emotions you experience when you're experiencing them. You're basically you experience emotions about negative things that have happened in the past or things that might happen in the future. Worrying about things, what ifing a lot of things. Your feelings can be depression, anger, sadness, regret, shame, even, or about things in the future, a lot of anxiety or worry. So you're trying to identify the emotions and the experiences that you're constantly reliving, or that you're constantly thinking about. And then after you identify those the events and the emotions, the objective is to stop thinking about those in the past or the future, and you just want to think about them in that exact moment and live in the moment. So yeah, the feelings that you may have at that exact moment might be painful, but the good thing about that is if you're just living it in the moment, then you're not reliving it again in the future, and you're not thinking about it in the past, so you're only thinking about it at that moment. So you're only, instead of experiencing the emotion 3 different times, or 3 times the amount or whatever, you're only experiencing it the one time, and that's in that exact moment. So the amount of negative emotions that you end up feeling is lessened a lot by learning to just feel it in the moment that it comes, instead of constantly thinking, what if this, what if that, or things like that. And this is not something that happens immediately. It takes a lot of practice, and that's why there's all these exercises, and that's why they tell you need to practice mindfulness. And it's not something that it just clicks, and it's not just something that your brain automatically does. If our brain automatically did it, then we wouldn't need DBT therapy, would we? So this is something that you have to, practice and kind of train your mind to be able to do. We train our minds to do so many different things. This is one of the things that we are going to have to train our minds to do. But once you master mindfulness, you're going to notice that you're going to be able to take control of your mind a lot more, and you'll be able to control where you want it to go. If you start to feel yourself getting depressed because you're starting to think about something, or you're starting to get anxious about something that's going to happen in the future, you're going to be able to control whether or not you allow yourself to think about it then, or if you're just going to say, well, instead of getting anxious about the flight that I'm taking 3 days from now, why don't I not think about it right now, and I'll just get anxious 3 days from now when it's approaching the flight and I'm at the airport and I'm getting ready to get on the plane, so that I'm not sitting there and from now until then I'm feeling anxious and having that feeling for the next 3 days. You'll only end up feeling it the day of, and that's the main goal of what you want to be able to do with your brain. And it, once you start to strengthen it, you can reduce a lot of your depression and anxiety and ruminations, which are one of my huge downfalls. I ruminate about everything. So your ruminations will almost be non-existent because you're going to think about it in the moment and then be done with it. So there's not going to be anything to ruminate about. So that's something I'm really excited about learning and training myself to do, because I'm telling you, the things that go like over and over and over again in my brain, like the same things over and over. It's, and I'm sure you all have the same thing. So I'm excited to learn about this. The next one, improving emotion regulation. Like I mentioned before, since you're living in the present moment, and it's going to reduce the amount of emotional pain that you feel because you're not dealing with the ones in the past or the ones in the future, in the future. You're just dealing with the pain in the moment. So your emotions are gonna be a lot more stable because you are gonna be able to be in control of what emotions you're feeling, and you can control whether or not you're gonna feel something feel something related to the future or the past or whatnot. You're going to be more aware of what's happening what's inside yourself, because you're not going to have all those other things distracting you. So you're going to be more present, and you're going to be able to be more aware of what you're thinking at that exact moment, what you're feeling at that exact moment, and your emotions. And then it'll help you keep in tune into any of the emotions that are going to come up. If you start thinking about something, an emotion that may pop up really quickly, instead of just reacting to it and letting the emotion control us and our actions and behaviors and take over, we're going to be able to control if we allow ourselves to go and visit and deal with that emotion. Or like I used the airplane example, if all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, I have a flight in 3 days, are we going to allow ourselves to like suddenly start getting anxious and start freaking out? Oh my God, okay, I got to pack, I got to do this, I got to do that, and then start all the anxieties like rushing in? Or are we going to let our minds put that aside and say, okay, I've got all these things I have to do. I'm going to go at them one at a time, and all the anxiousness and worriness about because I'm afraid to fly, I'm going to deal with that the day of the flight. And all the other things, I'll go step by step, but I'll deal with them one at a time, instead of letting that whole trip experience take us over and get us into this huge frenzy. And then we're just so anxious and filled with, craziness like the next 3 days because of this trip. We'll be able to learn how to control it. And then that also kind of leads over into increased behavioral control, because a lot of times you don't feel like you have control of your behaviors, but you do. The key is to not act on your urges, like self-harming, for example. If you're feeling really depressed, or you're, so unhappy with yourself, or purging, for example, you're unhappy with your appearance, and or some emotion just takes you over, and, you make the choice to purge. You make the choice to cut. And you think you don't have a choice. You think that, because you've been doing it for so long, or it's been like an automatic reaction or an automatic response almost to that feeling. So you feel like you don't have any control over it, because your brain says, I'm feeling this, I must do this. I must cut. Or I'm feeling this, I must purge. You have control over those actions, and you don't have to act on those urges. And so using mindfulness, we're going to be able to control more of our feelings, obviously, which we discussed before. So then when the urge comes up, we now know, we're more aware of when the feeling that prompts the urge to come up, when that comes up, we can act. We then have more time, and we're able to more quickly try to come up with a different solution, instead of immediately going to cutting or purging. We can do something else. The goal is to get the amount of time between when you have that feeling, whatever feeling it is that causes you, or that triggers the urge to do whatever the behavior is, if it's cutting, if it's purging, whatever that behavior is, the feeling that you have, and then the urge, you want the time in between there to get greater and greater through practicing mindfulness. And then the greater the time, eventually the urge is going to start to dissipate, because you're going to be filling that time with other things. So you're not going to, the urge isn't going to be as strong any longer. And once the urge isn't as strong, then that's how the urge kind of disappears. At least in this theory, that's what they're saying. So the goal is, when you're using mindfulness, you want to increase the amount of time between when the urge arises and when you act on it. Frankly, when that emotion comes, you're immediately going to feel that urge, So it's basically when the urge arises till the actual behavior, not so much the urge, but the behavior. So the time between when you get the urge and then the behavior and you actually act on it, that is the time that you're trying to expand and lengthen. And pretty soon the behavior will be gone, and that'll be a very good thing, because we don't self-harm and purging, and I've experienced both, and they're not good. They're just not, I don't want to get into, all that and take away from the DBT right now, but, they're maladaptive behaviors, and those are the types of things that we try to get rid of, because we want to deal with our emotions in a more positive way and in a better way, because it makes our lives just a lot better, I think. I feel a lot better now that I don't purge or, things like that. It's, I have other issues to focus on now, but, by getting rid of them one by one, you're taking steps into living a life that leaves more time for other things, like other fun things and good things. So our goal is to try to increase the time between the urge and the behavior, which will eventually lead to getting rid of that behavior. Like they say, mindfulness is a way of developing self-control. So, and it kind of is, like, the more you're able to control that urge, before you end up acting on it, that's self-control. You're exercising self-control. So you're just training your brain, to control itself. Another thing they say is that it'll improve your concentration and memory. Basically, when you're doing mindfulness, you want to be focused, like the definition says, you want to be focused and in that moment. And so instead of, since you're focusing on that moment, you're going to be able to notice when your mind starts to wander to different things. Whereas if you haven't learned mindfulness, or you're not practicing mindfulness, if you're sitting there and you're just thinking about something, you're reading a book or something, and suddenly your mind starts wandering, and then it goes to the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing, you're not always that aware of it, that your mind is wandering, until it's like 10 topics away from whatever it was you're reading. Well, with mindfulness, you're supposed to be so in tune to that moment that you'll notice immediately, like the second your mind starts to wander to something else, you're going to notice it, and then you're going to be able to bring it back to whatever it is you're focusing on at that present moment. So the more and more that you do this, then the more and more you're training your brain to focus on one thing. So it'll help you concentrate. So it'll help you concentrate when you're reading. You'll be able to read and focus better. School, if a lot of you are in school, it'll probably help you with school, because you'll be able to focus on your homework better, your reading materials, focus on the professor's lectures or things like that. And since you're focusing better on the things that are going on at that moment, and you don't have all the other background things going on and all the other, other topics that your brain is wandering off to, you're going to have a better memory of what you either learned, or what it was you read, or what happened at that moment. If you're at like a family reunion and someone's telling you a story, you're going to remember that story a lot better than before, when your mind was like all over the place and 10 different, paying attention to 10 different conversations that you're hearing in the background. Or another example is if you're online and you're surfing the internet while you're watching TV. Well, I mean, either one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to remember what you're surfing better than what's on TV because the TV might be more like background noise, or you're going to remember what's on TV more than you're going to remember what's on the internet because you're going to be more focused on the TV, and your brain can only fully focus on one thing at a time if you want to remember it fully, like to its fullest extent. So that's the best way to using mindfulness is going to be the way that you're going to practice, and you're going to end up learning to have a better memory and concentration, which will help you, especially in school with studying. It'll help you when it comes to test taking and things like that, I'm sure. I'm not in school anymore, so that's not going to be useful for me in school, but heck, I read all these books all the time from publishers and stuff, and I'm learning new facts every day about, all different topics. So if I can keep my focus on these, that's more information that I'm able to remember and convey to you guys on my, on my website and my post. If I can remember it better, then I can refer back to it when I'm doing other posts, I mean, it carries over into all aspects of your life. And the other thing is, it says engaging in life. So it says often people miss out a lot on smaller events, mostly positive events, because they're so busy thinking about something else. Probably negative, like ruminating thoughts and stuff. They're going on in your head like over and over and over again, that you're missing out on all the little positive things that are going on right in front of you. So, I mean, if I was a betting girl, that's what I would say, that, you're missing out because of all the negative experience, like the negative ruminating thoughts. But if you're in the present moment, then you're experiencing more in life because you're experiencing what's happening at that moment instead of being lost in your head with all the different things that you're thinking about, the anxiety of the train or the plane that you're going to take 3 days from now or whatnot. You're going to be experiencing all the things right in front of you. So it'll improve your life experiences. The one thing that a lot of people mistake mindfulness for, since it's not meditation, it's a form of meditation, but a lot of people think that it is, one of the goals is relaxation. It's not one of the goals, but it can help with relaxation. It's an indirect effect. I mean, it's not a goal. I mean, the goal is to get your mind to focus on one thing at a time and live in that moment. But when you're doing so, you don't have all those other thoughts going through your head. Your brain doesn't feel as chaotic, which, I mean, could have an impact on your body. Like, if you're anxious, I mean, anxiety takes a huge toll. My anxiety, if I don't take my anti-anxiety medicine for several days, the whole right side of my body, my arm and my leg, get numb. And, I mean, so that's how I know when I haven't taken it in a few days and I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety, because my body just, I guess, tenses up to the point where it becomes numb. So I have physical effects. So, so if you have constant anxiety or other things always going on in your head, it takes a toll on everything. But if you're using mindfulness and you're only thinking about the one thing in that moment, it can it presents a lot less chaos going on. A lot of times people when you're practicing the mindfulness activities, a lot of people choose to do them in relaxing activities. Like if you're taking a hot bath is when they're going to practice their mindfulness activity, or they're listening to, some calming, soothing music, or if they're just sitting outside and, and obviously you don't want to be sitting outside my house with all the trains going by, but if you live out in an open rural area or something, and it's usually pretty quiet outside, and you go outside and you practice the exercises out there, because it's calm and peaceful, then then just naturally, because you're doing relaxing exercises, or you're doing your DBT exercises, your mindfulness exercises, in an activity that's already relaxing for you, then you're going to be naturally more relaxed. I mean, if you take a hot bath and you're not thinking about anything, you know, and you're just closing your eyes, just naturally that's relaxing. So, you know, mindfulness does not necessarily create relaxation, or it's not a goal. Your goal when practicing mindfulness is not to relax, but it could be a result. The research. Of course, there's always research to back up all of these different theories and whatnot. So here's a few things on research on what what research has shown about mindfulness. Let's see. They've said that it can improve immune function and the ability to cope with physical illness. That it reduces stress, anxiety, depression, and sleep problems. Let's see. It generally increases the ability to enjoy life, we talked about. Improves the capacity to be self-aware and tolerate other upsetting thoughts. Kind of talked about that. You know, you notice it right away, so you're able to handle it right away. And you learn that even if it isn't, even if it is, something that's not positive, you kind of learn to sit with it at that moment, because you'd rather sit with it at that moment than have to deal with it in the past, in the present, the future, not 3 times. So you'll deal with it at that moment. They have also found that by activating certain parts of the brain that's connected, the part of your brain that's connected to experiencing happiness and optimism, that's mindfulness can trigger that and then trigger positive feelings. So that happy feelings are always good. If you do regular practice of formal mindfulness, and we'll get into the difference between formal mindfulness and informal mindfulness in the next video. But regular practice of formal mindfulness can actually change the physiological makeup of the brain. So, and it can improve psychological functions in certain areas of the brain, which as a result, it can have a positive effect on your mood. It can improve attention, compassion, empathy. It decreases stress-related cortisol levels, which many of you women know cortisol is one of those stress hormones that tend to, you tend to gain weight from your different cortisol levels because of the stress. So it can help with your stress-related cortisol levels. So that might have, a good positive effect on, on your body. Improves the overall immune system functioning. And it specifically helps a couple of medical conditions like some heart problems, asthma, type 2 diabetes, premenstrual syndrome, and chronic pain. So fibromyalgia. If you have fibromyalgia, learning mindfulness may help you. I don't know, but if anyone out there has fibromyalgia and has done DBT and practices mindfulness and it does help with their chronic pain, let me know. And if someone out there has fibromyalgia and you haven't tried it yet and you do try it, let me know if it does help, because I would be interested to know that, because I do have a few friends that have fibromyalgia, and if it does help, then I would love to let them know that this is something that they should probably try. So I think that is it for now. I know. I promised that I would have mindfulness exercises for you guys in this video, but I promise you the next video is, and I'm going to show you right here, how to practice, I don't know if you can see this, how to practice mindfulness. And literally 2 pages later, here we go, 2 pages later, it gives me the mindfulness exercises, okay? So I really promise this next video is going to have the exercises for you. I swear, I swear. But I didn't want to make it too long, this video, and then the exercises, because it was going to end up being way too long. So, but I promise you this next video is going to have the exercises. And I'm not just saying that to keep you tuning into all these videos. I promise. You saw it. It's like 2 pages, okay? It tells you, it's breaking down how to practice it. So how you're learning how to practice, and then it gives you the exercises. And so I'll give you them. And then the next page, the page after the exercises, is the mindfulness tracking sheet. So I'll go over that too after I go over the exercises. So I promise the next video is going to be the one. I promise you guys. I promise. But thank you for watching. And Brinley, I just want to say thank you for watching. And I told my hair girl. So she's happy. But thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. And again, questions, comments, concerns, anything, you can go to my webpage, www.bipolarhotmess.com. Email me at bipolarhotmess@gmail.com, or you can go to the Facebook page, or you can even comment at the end of this video on YouTube. So any of those, just comments, questions, and concerns. Okay, I will see you guys later, I promise, with the mindfulness exercises. I promise. Okay, bye.